How much should I weigh? I get this question so often. A lot of people guess by using their height and weight, which is basically their BMI, to see if they're at a healthy weight. Well, a lot of people don't know is that's not the only thing that has to be taken into consideration. There's so many different variables like fat, muscle, hydration levels that people don't know. So many different variables. If you look at the picture coming up, there's one, two, three, four, five, six different women, and they all weigh the same. But do they look the same? No. There's different heights, different body fat percentages, different amount of muscle, different levels of hydration, etc. Like I said, the body mass index is a person's height and weight plugged and chugged into a formula. It's very commonly used to assess a person's general health because it's cheap, doesn't really cost anything. You just look at a chart, and it's very convenient. A lot of people can't even sometimes get into the military, or for insurance reasons they can't get in because of their BMI. But they're not unhealthy. It's just according to that chart, it throws them out of the loop. Um, if you're wondering what your BMI is, you could plug and chug into the formula, or on the coming up slide, I have a chart where you can look at. Basically, when you look at this chart, you want to look at the height and then look at the weight, and it shows you where you fall in, whether you're severely underweight, if you're underweight, your optimal weight, you're overweight, obese, or severely obese. Now, this is to figure out your BMI. Remember, this is only a ballpark number. It's only your height and weight. It doesn't take in consideration anything else. That's why it's not very accurate. BMI, BMI, BMI. I keep talking about BMI. What BMI is, it essentially it takes into consideration a person's weight and height only, and it plugs and chugs into a formula. Now they make charts already pre-made, so you just look at your height and how much you weigh, and then you find where you lay. If you look at the picture up top on the right, both of the guys are the same height, and they both weigh 190 pounds. Now the guy on the left looks like he's overweight. The guy on the right, he looks in pretty darn good shape to me. But they both have the same BMI according to the chart. Now, if there's an insurance company, they'll say, hey, we're going to charge you more because according to your BMI, you're unhealthy, which is not true. Because once again, it's not taking in body composition. That's the biggest key factor. It's not taking into consideration muscle, fat, and water. 1 pound of muscle is more dense than 1 pound of fat. That's why you have people that look slim and weigh as much as people that are overweight. The number you should be looking for is the body fat percentage. Once again, the body fat percentage. Now, I keep talking about body fat percentage. There's different ways to find it. I'll talk about 3. I think there's a little bit more than that. I think maybe like 6 or 7 or 5 perhaps. The first one I'm going to talk about is the skin fold test, or otherwise known as the skin caliper test. You basically pinch the skin and use the skin caliper to measure the thickness of the skin fold. You want to do it at different sites, so basically different parts of your body like chest, area, abdominal, thigh. It all has a formula. There's a couple of different ones. There's like the 3-site test and then the 7-site test. It's basically up to you. And then you want to plug and chug those numbers into a formula. I gave you a link to a calculator where you don't have to do it, on paper. You just plug and chug, and they give you your body fat percentage. The pros of it, I would say, is that it's very cheap. I think it's like $5 or $10 for a caliper. Or you can even go into a health club and they'll do it. Some of them will do it for free. The cons would be you have to do it like 7 times at each test site. So make sure, and then average it out. It's very time consuming. And then on top of that, we're human. We're not a machine. So that means, if we don't know how to read it correctly, or we grab too much, or we go too far, don't grab enough, it's going to skew our results. And therefore, it makes it not as accurate as other methods. Now, the second way is a bioelectrical impedance analysis. I didn't write that in. It goes for BIA. Basically, what it is, it's a device that sends electrical impulses through your body to measure how quickly they come back. Since lean tissue conducts electricity impulses faster than fatty tissue, its response time is correlated to a leaner physique. Now, if you look at the bigger machine on the right, it's more accurate because it has the handheld and has the foot part to it as well. You can also get a lot of scales that will do this, but they're not as accurate, I don't think. The one on the right costs, I think, over 1,000. Meanwhile, the handheld one you get for your home is like 30 bucks online. If you want to use the one on the right, you could probably go into a health club and get it done for a couple of bucks. Now, the pros of it is that it's very accurate. It's affordable for the most part, especially for the handheld one. And then you can use them as a health club. The cons of it would be that the readings can be affected by different variables. For example, like your hydration levels, your meal times, your workouts. So essentially, when I did this myself in my exercise phys class, they told you like, oh, don't eat chocolate, don't eat anything, don't exercise, don't drink caffeine, don't smoke, so it won't skew your results. You want to be as accurate as you could be with this. I would say this is probably my favorite way of checking body fat percentage out of all of them. The third one I put down is hydrostatic weighing. A lot of people know it as underwater weighing. Basically, what this does is takes the person's regular weight and then takes their weight underneath the water. They have to be completely dunked and let all the air out of their lungs. How this works essentially is it sees how much you weigh underneath water because fat floats. So therefore, like all your organs, your bones, your muscle, it all gonna sink. So the difference between those two numbers, along with the water density formula, it shows you how much body fat you have. The pros of it are it's very accurate. Um, the cons would be that unless you have your own tank at home, it's going to cost you a hefty dollar. You're gonna go to a health club or a lab, and you're gonna pay a decent amount, like 80 bucks. Another negative is you're being dunked underneath the water. I remember when I did this in my exercise phys class, the water was cold, and you also have things like human error, like the person calculating it might make a mistake or read something wrong, or maybe you didn't let out all the air out of your lungs. But essentially, if you do it 2 or 3 times, you could get a really good result. That's why it's very nice because it's very accurate. They also have different types of dunk tanks, which are more accurate than the one you see in the picture. Like I said, this is a skinfold caliper. This is how it kind of looks like. It's all white, so it's hard to see, but it's like 5 bucks on Amazon. It gives you a chart with it. I posted a link below for all the things I put in here, so you can check them out. This one's actually a digital one. I think it's a little bit more accurate because you're not reading it off the plastic. It goes for about like 20 or 30 bucks. That's a good investment as well. I talked about the bioelectrical analysis, the BIA. The handheld one, this is like 20 something dollars, 30 max offline. While they have also the scale, like I said, which is a little bit more accurate. Like I said, I have the scale too. I have one of those. It's not that accurate, but it gives you an area of body fat percentage. Much more accurate than if you were to do a BMI, that's for sure. But these go for about 200 bucks, depending on what brand you get. So there's a price difference. This is one I found. Now these go for about 4 grand. I couldn't find the InBody 550, which I use personally. What makes it nice is that you could tell the visceral fat, you could tell how much muscle mass you have in the upper body, lower body. It tells you where your fat is carried. It's very detailed and it gives you a lot of information, even hydration levels compared to the other ones. Once again, like I said, I have all the links for all this stuff underneath my videos, so if you want to go check them out and maybe get at least a caliper for the body fat, that would be decent. Now, you take the body fat percentage, whether you got it from the skin fold test, the BIA, or the hydrostatic weighting, or any other way you chose to get that body fat percentage number. You basically look at this chart, and you look on the left, like how old you are, like 18 to 20. And then you take that number that you received. For example, if I'm 19 years old, and I have 24.8% body fat. I'm in the average side of things. The chart before was for women, and then this is for men because obviously men and women are built differently, and women tend to have more fat since they do give birth and yada yada yada. But that's essentially it. This is a way better technique for seeing if you're at a good weight, if you're healthy or not.